Morning. My name is Larry Garrett. I learned that from Norman McGill. Norman McGill wrote a book called Encyclopedia of Stage Hypnosis. And he said, every time you do anything, tell them your name. Right, Brian? Tell them your name. And I did that. I did that. So you want to know why am I here? Because I don't do stage hypnosis. Brad and I, after I was just chatting, though, there comes a time as a stage hypnotist when you want to make a little transition into sitting behind a desk, maybe. I have some great stories about getting involved in stage hypnosis. I did stage hypnosis for about 20 years, maybe about 17 to 18 with a lot of activity, and then gradually I started fading down. And the reason I'd fade down was because I was getting tired. Good wording. My armpits were sweating too much. After you're done with a stage show, presentation, you're like, and then the audience is empty. So you're starved for an hour or two, and then you've got this big auditorium, and there's not a soul left in the room. And you're all alone. And then you drive back to your home. Mine was in Chicago. I did about 400 schools in Illinois. But I'd like to start out with how I started in my career of stage hypnosis. I trained with a man named Fred Chavo in Chicago in 1968. And I was in a class of around 20 students doing hypnosis. That was called the National Hypnotic Institute. I think they're no longer around. And how I got involved in hypnosis is I was involved in astrology. I wanted to learn about astrology. And so I was studying astrology, and there was an astrologers conference or meeting in Park Ridge, Illinois, and I decided to go to this meeting for astrology. And there was a hypnotist doing shows there. I was a different person then. I'm 26 years old, 1968. I have bad stomach ulcers. I have severe headaches. I smoked too much. I bit my nails and my hands would tremor with anxiety. I was just full of anxiety all the time. I was always worried about something. Something's going to go wrong. I know it. And there's a stage hypnotist, Fred Chavo, who's my teacher, and he's up there doing these crazy-ass things, like people stuck to a chair and stood there with my arms folded. I didn't know what all of us hypnotists know now, that you could spot the skeptic as the easiest subject. And so Fred spotted me, and he said, why don't you come to my class? My guest, no charge. Good idea. I'll show this guy. He's a fool. I will show him that he knows nothing. Actually, I was kind of an asshole, I think I was. I was really okay. I was a nice guy, just like I am now, but I had this attitude, this attitude to prove everybody was wrong, because I knew I was right, even though I had bleeding ulcers, headaches, tremors, cigarettes, and nail biting. But I knew they were wrong and I was right. And I share these stories because that's who I was. But of course, as you probably know, hypnosis changed my life, as most of us sitting here. So I go to Fred's class, and I share these stories because they're very fundamental to my career in hypnosis, especially stage hypnosis, especially. By the way, I want to say I'm honored to see this group here. When we walked in, there were 3 people here. I said, well, looks like we're not going to have a very big crowd. Who wants to hear about how to get out of stage hypnosis? But speaking of,
there's only one elevator.
The elevator's tough right now.
yeah, it is
Up
all.
and down, up and down.
Good excuse. Thank you. Thank you. I thought it was my deodorant. Deodorant. I don't want
It's
to.
broken.
So I go back to Fred's class. And to this day, I often wonder what happened to some of those students, or 20 students, as I say. I wonder what happened to those students that I trained with, because they're not around. This is my 55th year in hypnosis, and I wanted to make a joke in my next talk that William Mitchell expects me to do in 55 minutes what's taken me 55 years to learn. So Fred's class has a circle of people in his room. And we're all sitting in this circle, and he's going to come up to each of us and he says, on a count of three, when I touch your head, 1, 2, 3, you'll go deep asleep, or whatever his words were. And everybody was going, room. That's a crock. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's good. I just need to keep it out of my way. I might share with you, if some of you know, some of you don't, I went through some cancer treatments 2 years ago. I had stage 3 cancer, neck cancer, throat cancer, and I was sharing with Eric. We were talking about health. He's a healthy man. He says he's got bad knees. I says, me too. I had HPV virus, and some of you don't know that one. Ellie caught it. Where are the rest of you at? Thank you. Be with me, class. You're supposed to be entertainers. I'm entertaining. HP virus cancer. You know it? Look it up. Okay. So anyway, go back to Fred's class. So you got these 20 people sitting in a circle, and I always remember this, and it's amazing. I can't remember where my car keys are 10 minutes ago, but I could remember a client from 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and I remember this scene in Fred's class like it's yesterday. So here is this group, all kind of like going to a church and they're all believing in God, and I'm thinking this is a crock. All these people are just crazy. They don't know what's going on. So Fred goes around with everybody, 1, 2, 3, close your eyes, and everybody's dropped their head. And I'm sitting next to this young woman. I always remember her name. Her name was Faith. And she was kind of skeptical too, and I said, I'm not going to do it, are you? She said, I'm not going to do it either. Don't do it. Don't do it. Whispering to her. Fred comes along and he goes to Faith, 1, 2, 3, room. Shit, I'm going to be the only person sitting here. Good, all you stage hypnotists know that one. But I didn't know that one then. So, of course, when he came to me, and boom, I'm sitting there just like this. You know what I told Craig? I said, Craig and Allie, by the way, are associates of mine. They work with me in my office along with Anita Barton, who co-authored my book, and Dr. Funda Khan, who's been a great friend and instructor in our office for many years. And we have a great crew there. I'll tell you about that in my 1 o'clock class if you want to know how to be successful with every client. Right now we want to say, how do I get out of stage hypnosis and make $100,000 a year or whatever you make? No, I don't know what you make doing stage hypnosis, but let's say $100,000. You can make more doing clinical hypnosis if you take my class at 1 o'clock. So anyway, so Fred hypnotizes me, and I'm sitting there with my eyes closed, and I'm saying, I'm not hypnotized. I could open my eyes anytime I want. I could open my eyes and blow this whole thing, but I'll go along with him because I don't want to embarrass him. You know that one? That's what I told Craig. Do stage hypnosis because as a hypnotist, you need to know what that client or that subject is going through on stage. You need to know. If you don't know, do it. I just heard Scott Giles speaking about every hypnotist needs to do self-hypnosis. If you don't practice what you teach, you'll not teach well. So, and Craig did that. I'm so glad that you did that. I'm so glad you got up there. Here, I got something for you. Here it is, here it is. Look at that. Show that to Colleen. Colleen's his wife. He's going to brag about being up on stage last night. So, Fred walks away from me. I'm sorry to drag it on, but I just like to have fun. He walks away from me and, oh, excuse me, he says, and when you open your eyes, you won't be able to say your first name. Well, all of you stage hypnotists know this story. I'm just sharing with you how I got into it and how I got out of it. So he walks away from me and I'm thinking to myself, wait, I want to tell you my name. I didn't say that, I'm thinking it. There's nothing worse in the world than somebody being with you and walking away from you. What does that feel like, right? I felt terrible. He's walking away from me. How dare him? How dare him when I want to expose him? 20 minutes later, he comes back and says, oh, by the way, what's your name? I smile. I said, my name's... Wait, I got it. Wait, I got it. I'm so sorry. I got it. Terrible. Terrible. Probably in my office. I said, my name's... And nothing came out. Nothing came out. And I said, wait, I know it. And everybody's laughing. Well, that changed my life. Here's what changed my life. Remember I told you who I used to be? When I opened my eyes, I was absent of a stomachache. I didn't have a headache. My hands weren't tremoring. My whole life changed right in front of me in 5 minutes. 5 minutes. And my words to myself, I remember them were, something's wrong, because nothing's wrong. Now today, I'm 81 years old, been through stage 3 cancer. Anna says to me, how come you look good? I'm in love. I'm in love with all of you. If you see me when I'm sitting there, I'm always in love. Most of the time I don't have as many guys around as women, but the real fact I love all of you, men and women. And I think when you practice love, you stay young. I practice unconditional love. I live the moment. I choose not to judge, and that allows me to be healthy. Because think of any of those emotions I just mentioned not existing. Choose not to have love. That's heavy. Choose to judge. Whew, that's not so good. Get out of the moment. You go in the past and you got regret. You go in the future, you have anxiety. You're in the moment and you can live. See, my goal is to be 100 plus. And I really believe I'll make it. And the reason I think I'll make it is because I believe I'll make it. And yeah, we could say, somebody asked me earlier, well, what is that called? Do you practice? I can't even think of the word right now. It was big about 2 years ago with the books, 3 years ago. And some positive statement. No, I just live the moment. And if I live the moment, nothing can hurt me. So now I have to share with you how I got into stage hypnosis, 1968. So I'm taking this class. The class I took lasted 1 year, every Thursday night for 1 year. And we didn't really learn much about things like losing weight, quitting smoking, confidence. We learned about how to do things like stuck to a chair, forgetting your name, things like that. So I had this feeling in me, and I had cards printed up. It says, professional hypnotist. I still have one of them. I had an eyeball that you'd go like this, and it would wink. And so I remember going up and down a strip in Chicago that has a lot of clubs. And I stopped at a club called Lucifer's Den. By the way, I want to share with you, my instructor, Fred, says, what makes you think you're a professional hypnotist on your card? He told me one time, he says, Larry, with your attitude, you'll never make it in hypnosis. And I told him, I said, well, I looked it up in the dictionary. And professional meant you got paid for it. So I told him I got paid. So my first gig was that I did all clubs for about 2 years, 3 years. And I started doing schools later. And my first gig was at Lucifer's Den. Interesting name, huh? Lucifer's Den. It was a long strip type of club on Milwaukee Avenue in Oakton. And the owner of the club's name was Rocky, kind of a big burly guy. He says, well, if you could hypnotize me, you've got the job. Well, do you remember when you started doing hypnosis, you thought you could hypnotize anybody? When you're naive, you don't know who to hypnotize and not. But that belief system makes you very successful. Because I can remember when I would be with Lucifer's Den and other clubs, I was at Tanya's, a few others, they'd always kind of lead me with a band or follow me with a band, and I'd do my show. And they'd say, well, could you do it to me? Sure. Close your eyes. 1, 2, 3, can't say your name. And they couldn't say their name. I didn't know that some of those people wouldn't do well. I learned. I'll show you how I learned. I'm going to share with you all something I shared yesterday. I can't remember with who, but you might be here. The most powerful statement you could make during stage hypnosis. So Rocky says, if you hypnotize me, you've got the job. Well, we didn't have phones then. We had cameras. We had one that called Polaroids, you might remember if you're around that age. So we had a Polaroid camera, and so I really didn't know. I mean, I did crazy things, you know. I did things that weren't appropriate sometimes. I don't mean sexual, I just mean dangerous, you know. I'd hurt somebody. So Rocky's a big guy. He might be 300 pounds, 250, 300 pounds. So a couple of people watching, we hypnotized him. He's standing there, standing up. So I said, let's pick him up, put him across 2 chairs. I put him across 2 chairs, take a picture of him, take him down, open his eyes. He said, see, I told you couldn't hypnotize me. Well, we showed him the photo, and I worked at Lucifer's Den for 21 weeks. 21 weeks I got this job. Every Tuesday, which was their slowest night, and they would build it up and they'd move into another slow night. And I used to do shows for $25, 2 of them for $35. However, look at Google, how much in 1969 was $25, probably equivalent to 150 or something, which still might have not been enough. However, $25 at that time was a lot of money. A lot of money. $25 every week, sometimes 2 for $35. Then I started getting other shows. So I was doing a show one time, and this young guy comes up to me and he says, I go to St. Pat's High School, could you do our prom? Sure. So I did the prom, and he says, when I graduate, he says, I'm going to get a job working as an intern at an agency in Champaign, and I would like to know if we could book you as a hypnotist. Yeah, sure. I mean, I've always been I've never tried to be successful. Hear that well. I've never tried to earn a lot of money. I've never attempted to say, look how great I am. Just be who I am, even then. Yeah, if you want to book me, book me. Think I care? I'm just having fun. So he did. He went to work for a place called Blytham Limited in Champaign. I don't know if they're still around, probably not. So they began to book me for 17 years at about 400 different schools around the country. At that time, I mentioned earlier, when William was doing his talk, we had 3 hypnotists doing the circuit of the country. And there weren't, like he mentioned, like 10 shows going on tonight. And I said, maybe there's 10 shows in the country at that time. We had Gil Eagles, who's no longer with us. We had Jim Mapes, who's still around, and Larry Garrett. That was it. That was it. And the only reason we knew each other is because we go to a school conference and meet each other. But we were always like crossing paths. And it was difficult to fly because most of the schools, as you probably know, were in small towns. I remember like Tarkio, Missouri. There's no airports in Tarkio, so you drive. I remember Wright College in Nebraska. See, I'm remembering things. I can't remember where my car keys are. So, excuse me. So as we went along with this career of mine, I could remember some of my latter shows. By the way, I have many of these on video. Who was it that I shared them with? Somebody said they sent them. Well, I just shared some with Craig and Allie, but I have many of them on video. And video was not known much then. This is in the early 70s. And we used to carry, I had a camera about this big. No color, by the way, mostly black and white. We had a Sony reel-to-reel video machine, about that big, with a built-in monitor. Later on, I got more famous, and I got a machine that just had the cartridges in there. And I'm speaking about history. Most of them are black and white, they didn't have color. But I had them. And it's kind of interesting to see me skinny and moving around the stage like I'm some kind of motor machine. And the fun I would have. And we speak about a stage hypnotist with routines. I was sharing this morning at breakfast where I got a lot of my routines. My sons at that time were all young. And one was about 4, one was about 6. And I got most of my routines from my sons. Many routines from my sons. Things that I would do then probably might not be okay right now, but they were okay then. And I could recall some routines, some of you might see some of them now. I wonder sometimes, how do they know that routine? I thought that I was doing that. But I remember my son Scott, who's about 53 now, and he also went through cancer about the same time as me. Where did COVID? COVID started, we both were diagnosed. Coincidence, he had a different type. And we both ended up free of cancer about 8 months later. And so Scott and I, Scott's kind of an interesting person. He's a geek. He was mostly into computers and stuff, but really a nice person. And I remember to this day, he had a pair of pants the zipper kept opening. Pull it up. He'd walk around the zipper, I'd pull it up. Routine. So I started working. Whenever I'd say my name, Larry Garrett. Remember, say your name as much as you can. Whenever I say my name, Larry Garrett, your zipper open. Everybody go like this, go like this. And then I remember my younger son, Craig, he one day had his shirt on backwards. Another good routine. So a lot of the routines I got, and somebody asked me earlier about getting up there and remembering. I was watching last night how fast Eric worked with some of the people. And some of you know you get up on stage, what do you do next? Some of you know Diana Barrar. Diana Barrar and I worked together. We worked in the same office probably 30 years. She's one of the longest running female hypnotists in the country. 51 years she's been doing hypnosis. Still doing hypnosis full time. It's the only career she's ever had. Sometimes people say, can't make any money in hypnosis. That's you. There's plenty of people out there. I heard Scott a little while ago saying, a lot of people out there. So Diana would come with me to do the shows, and she would either hold the camera, but she would always hold the cue cards. You know, and I'd look at her and she'd go like this. Oh yeah, let's do that. So I became good. I became fast, good. You know, one thing with stage hypnosis, you want to move fast, you can't stop. If you stop, it's like, no, you can't do that. You know, you can't do that. So now I'm starting to evolve a little. And so one of the reasons I stopped doing stage hypnosis was I was doing this show at in Lisle, Illinois Benedictine College. And my armpits would sweat, and I always wore silk shirts. I always used to like silk shirts. I don't even know if they make them anymore because of sweat. And my armpits would start sweating, so my shirts would be all wet. So I remember I put paper towels, I lost my microphone. I put paper towels on my armpits to catch the sweat. So I'm doing this great show at Illinois Benediction, and here's paper towels coming out of my sleeves. So, look at that. And kind of like it was a magic show. But it really said to me, time to move on. You know, I believe in a very higher power. I don't know if it's God or not, because I don't know if I believe in God, but I believe in a higher spiritual or universal power. And that universal power put me on a TV show in Chicago. Can't recall the name right now. Maybe it's not as important. And on this show was myself doing stage hypnosis and two physicians. One who did medical hypnosis and one who was anti-hypnosis. It's the most dangerous thing you could do, he said, and if anybody does it, they're going to get in trouble for hurting people's minds. It was a good show, though. So here I am talking stage hypnosis. One person's talking medical hypnosis. One person's talking anti-hypnosis. I have that on video, by the way. I have the first TV show I was ever on, 1970, I have on video. Don't ask me why, because I don't watch these things, but sometimes people like Craig or Allie or somebody in my office might have an interest and send it off. After the show was finished, the doctor who practiced medical hypnosis said, would you like to have lunch? Wow. Do you know in this is about 1978, 76, 78, not many doctors did hypnosis. And when you met a doctor who did hypnosis, you were really excited. Really excited. So I was excited, of course. I'm honored. I feel like I'm with God. This is a medical man who believes in hypnosis. Remember again, those of you that do hypnosis now are really fortunate.